Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining this latest installation in our series of Rival One webinars. I see we have some people still kind of trickling in. We're going to go ahead and start. This webinar will be recorded and available to all who registered, whether you attend or not. So this recording will be available. If you missed part of this, if you're pulled away perhaps for a trade that you got to perform before the end of the day here, this recording will be available to everybody. My name is Bernie Schwartz. I'm product manager at Rival Systems. And today we're going to be covering Rival One's advanced options functionality. So in our last webinar, we went over basic functionality for Rival One. In this, we'll get into a little more detail on options. When it comes to options functionality, we can get extremely detailed, but I will try and keep this webinar to a reasonable time frame. So I won't go into extreme detail on each and every feature, but I do want to point out that there is the capability for attendees to ask questions. Please do post any questions you have along the way. I will be answering them as they come in, or perhaps at the end if you have any. So please enter those. Please let me know if there's anything that you would like to see more of. But more importantly, my contact information is shared with everybody who registered and will be shared again in a follow-up after this webinar. And I encourage everybody to reach out to me directly or to our sales team for more information, more questions about the Rival One platform in general or about options functionality specifically. We're very, very proud of the functionality that we have in place right now, but this is a living platform. We are constantly adding more features. I'll make reference during this webinar to a couple new features that are on the way. What you are viewing now is the next version of the software that's actually being released tonight. So there are a couple of improvements that will go out with this version that you're seeing that will be available in production for all users tonight. And as I say, we are constantly adding new features, new improvements. And so if there's anything in addition that you don't see here that you think would be beneficial for an option system or for you as a trader, we would love to hear from you, whether that's in this webinar or as a follow-up afterwards. We welcome all kinds of commentary, questions, etc. Without further introductions, I'll jump right into the functionality. What you're looking at now, and here's how I'm going to cover it. What you're looking at now is a pretty standard sort of basic screen that I've created to monitor the options market for crude oil options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a blank page and build out an options workspace to explain how we can search these products, how to display everything that you're seeing here. I'll go through some basic execution on outright options. And then we'll talk about spread building. I'll demonstrate the ways that you can create your own option spreads and submit orders on those, RFQ them, and submit orders to the market. We'll go over some execution of those spreads, and then I'll talk briefly about some of the advanced algos that we have available for options. And that's where I think some people may want a little more detail there when it comes to the algos, and certainly I'll be available for that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a blank screen, so you can see what it'll look like if and when you go to build out your options workspace. In the component panel on the left, I'm going to add an option chain, and of course that'll come in with no detail. It is blank. There's no instrument in there. I'm going to add the symbol here on the top. Now, importantly, because Rival One supports instruments across futures exchanges as well as equities, we use the base symbol to search for options, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we're going to look at crude options today, where the option symbol is LO. However, the underlying future is CL. And the reason that matters here is because, particularly at the CME, they have a lot of sort of bizarre naming, I shouldn't say bizarre, but naming conventions that don't conform easily to the option symbol. So if I select my CL base symbol, CL at CME NYMEX, we can see that there are a number of crude option symbols that expire into the CL future. Of course, the LO is our standard monthly options. LO 1 through 5 is the weeklies. And of course, now that we are on to dailies with the NL, the ML, the XL, etc. All of those options, all of those symbols are available to you. If I were to select all, I'll go ahead and do that. You can have a look at what this looks like in the option chain. All of the symbols will be arranged chronologically, regardless of which symbols you pull in. Now, this can get a little hard to work with when we've got so many weeklies and so many dailies. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to stick to just the basic LO options, try and simplify things a little bit. So I'll pull in my option chain. I will pull up my CL base symbol, and I'll select just the LO options, and we'll see that just the standard monthly options are listed. Each of these terms is an expandable term. So with a single click in the term header, I can expand that term and see prices, theoretical values, markets for everything in that term. What we have here is effectively a vertical price sheet. So if I scroll down, I will get to the other terms below. But easy shortcut is to do a quick collapse. So if I'm looking at DEES and I want to take a look at Jan, I would collapse DEES. It's just a single click in the header and expand Jan. And we can see we will auto center at the money strike. For now, let's stick to the October options, so most liquid. And what I'm going to do here, we're going to talk about execution. And I'm going to add a couple of more components so we can have a good look at what our execution looks like. So I'm going to add a portfolio. There's going to be a whole lot more instruments in here than we're going to look at today, but I'm going to apply a filter shortly. And I'm going to add an order book and a trade book to our workspace. If there are questions on how those components are added and how this sort of this canvas works, I would love to field those. We kind of covered those in the last webinar, but for those of you who may not have attended, we've got some really nice features in terms of building and arranging your workspace. So I mentioned I was going to filter my portfolio. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to apply a filter so that I am only looking at my CL complex. So symbol contains CL, and my portfolio is now filtered for all of my CL positions. If we crack open the portfolio for CL, we see that everything is bucketed into the underlying future. So in this case, every option that expires into the CL no future is listed here. Right now, I've just got October options on. Everything that expires into the DEES future is listed here. Crude has some odd timing, so there are actually no options that expire into the DEES future. But for those of you who are used to options, you're used to that sort of disconnect there. Importantly, you'll see that for every position we have on, you can drill down to the instrument level if you like, and we can see the Greeks in the portfolio, delta, gamma, theta, vega. We do have second order Greeks that are available. You can configure your portfolio any way you like. I won't get into great detail here on the columns, but certainly additional second level Greeks are available. And this will give you a good idea of where your risk is coming from and what your top line Greeks look like for each future, each bucket that is, and then for your total position at the top. A lot of traders, I think, on this call are going to be curious about having a risk slide where you can view various scenarios, or what we're calling a vol matrix, where you can shock your position based on underlying move or based on a volatility move. That feature is currently in development. We expect that to be available in the next month or so. And when it is, we'll have a big announcement there. We'll have a really nice, robust slide. At the moment, however, all of these Greek calculations are accurate and available to you in the portfolio window. I've also added an order book and a trade book so that I can do a little bit of execution here. Before I do that, I I do want to point out a couple of things with the option chain. So I mentioned that because we are a multi-asset platform, it is necessary for us to identify options by their base symbol. And if you notice when I pulled up CL, I'm going to add another tab here, which of course you can do. You can have as many tabs as you want. Let's just call this tab 2 for now. But if I go in there and I look at my CL symbol, we can see that, well, this is our classic example of symbol collision, where we've got that CL base symbol at the CME. We've also got CL Colgate equities. So I can, in the same, if I were doing some sort of bizarre trade of crude oil versus Colgate, I could certainly load those up. And this is just an example of give you a look at what equity options look like. But I can look at my Colgate options here as well. So you see the same values are available, theoretical values, implied vol, that is available for any equity that is listed. Let's take a look, for example, at Tesla, kind of hot these days. If I look at Tesla as a base symbol, we see that there are all options for equities in almost all cases will match the stock symbol. So in this case, we only have one option symbol to select, that is Tesla. I can select those, and I can very quickly take a look at my Theos and Greeks for my Tesla options. So this is something that sort of sets Rival One apart, in the fact that we are multi-asset. All of the options features that you see today, I'm going to stick with futures for the most part, because I think that's the majority of users on this call. But everything I show you for futures is absolutely available for equity options as well. Going back to our crude oil options, I'm going to center with a double click to at the money, and just to make this easier for reference, I can rename this tab to be crude, which I'm going to do right now. This is kind of nice. You see that there's a pop-up that just arrived in the bottom left-hand corner. And this is not unique to options, but in the case that a new version is released to you and you have not updated yet, you will have the option to update on the fly. We will see this will happen more often because I'm in our internal UAT environment and we have new features coming out. I'm going to dismiss this for now and don't ask me again in the session. When I restart, I will get the newest version. But that's just a little Easter egg there. Looking again at our crude oil options, I'm going to execute a couple of outright orders, very, very basic execution before we get into some more complex orders like spreads. So in the option chain, clicking on a bid or an offer will open up an order ticket for that option. So let's see if, I've got in my October position right now, I've got a 66 straddle on, I've got some 64 half puts that I put on today. We can see here my put position, I'm long 20 of those puts, I'm short 10 of the 66 straddles. We can see in our call position and put position, our position on that line, there is also a net pause column that you can add. In the option chain, I've just got delta exposed, but you can also in the option chain add any other Greeks that you want as columns. Gamma Vega, I mentioned net position, so I'm going to pull that in here. Open interest is available as well. Also skew delta. So the delta that we're looking at here is effectively the flat delta. Skew delta is available to you, so those can all be added and saved. So we can see the net position column is just giving us our position on the strike. Some people like to think of it as a combo. I'm gonna go ahead and execute a trade here on these 70 calls, which we don't have a position on. So as I say, a single left click on the bid or the off will bring up an order ticket. The row is highlighted so we can see what option we are operating on, and we can see the Theo value within the ticket here. I'm gonna buy 20 of these 70 calls offered at 145. I'll go ahead and submit an order to buy 20 at 145. There's a slight delay because we're using our internal matching engine here. You certainly won't see that delay when you execute at the exchange, but you can see the order working, quantity and price. And as soon as it executes, we will see that fill in our trade book. So I'll give our internal engine just a minute to catch up here. But of course, when you send a trade to the exchange, you will not see this kind of delay. So here I got a fill of 20 of my 70 calls at $1.45, and we can see that those are displayed in my portfolio in the proper bucket. All right, basic option execution, easy enough. Order ticket should be self-explanatory. I will get into some more advanced order types down the line a bit. What I want to move on to here, though, is spread building and some more advanced features of the option chain. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at the spreads for this CL complex. Now we've got a nifty little feature right here. This S is for strategies. And the tooltip will tell us if we drag the symbols to option strategies, we can create a new component. For the purposes of this demonstration, where I've got a bit of limited real estate here, I'm going to remove my portfolio, my order book, and my trade book, so I can give you a good look at these secondary option components that are very useful. So if I grab and drag this S into the strategies area, it opens a brand new option strategies component. What is listed here in this option strategies component is every instrument that is currently listed on the exchange, every spread that is currently listed on the exchange that is contained within my parent option chain. So again, since I limited our symbols to the LO only and not the weeklies, we will see in our option strategies component all spreads that have LO in them. What they're listed by default in terms of RFQ time. So this is every spread at the CME that has been RFQ'd by any member, by any trader at the CME. As the most recent is on top, we can see that we get a summary of the spread itself. Some of these names, especially when we get into covered spreads, can get very long. If I hover over it with the tooltip, I can see the full detail of that spread. Of course, you can manipulate your columns to give you better visibility. But the strategies component is showing us everything that's out there. So everything in the strategies component can be executed as a spread. So in the same way that I brought up an order ticket to buy or sell an outright option in the option chain, I can do the same thing here. So for example, this OCT 48.95 strangle offered at 12 cents, I can bring up an order ticket and execute an order on that spread. I see there are 116 offered. I can certainly go ahead and buy, let's go ahead and buy 50 of those for 12 cents. And we'll take a look at what that looks like in our portfolio when we get back there. In addition to option strategies, there are a couple more advanced secondary option components that you can launch from the option chain. First thing I want to point out is the ticker, which you saw when I first opened my workspace and joined the webinar. If I grab that T from the option chain and drop it in as a ticker, any instrument that pertains to LO, the LO options, will start populating in the ticker. So we are going to see outright options populate there. We're going to see spreads populate there when they trade. This will be a running tab of everything that is trading that's pertinent to your option chain. So we can see that there are some outright calls coming in. We do have within the ticker our Theo price, our delta and gamma. All other Greeks are available as well. Like with all other components, you've got full range of Greeks in the ticker, and we'll give you the underlying price at the time of the trade. It is possible to execute directly from the ticker. So if you see something going up and you see that, okay, 5 lot of these 78 calls just traded, I'm interested in that. A single left click on the price will bring up an order ticket. So you can, if you see something interesting that's happening in the market, you see somebody's trading this call, you want to take a look, real easy, single click, pull up an order ticket, and you can place an order directly from there. The last secondary component that I want to show here, and then we see there's a good example of a spread that traded in LO. We see this call vertical just traded a couple of times. Once again, that name can get a little lengthy, so you have the tooltip to hover if you need to get more detail on that call vertical. The last component I want to show is our vol graph. So this has been long requested by a lot of users. I'm going to grab that V from my option chain and drag it over here and drop this in to create a vol graph. Let's take a look at our October curve. We can see here we've got some oddity happening on the put wing there, but if we look at options close to at the money, we can see our strike displayed on the x-axis, implied vol displayed on the y-axis. So this is the current curve, our current auto fit curve that we're using to fit the market. We see where our at the money point is, and our crosshairs will tell us the volatility at each and every strike along the curve. In addition, I can add a settlement. I can take a look at the settlement curve. So I can look at the change on the day in the settlement curve. So settlement curve is based, of course, on last night's close, but I can see where the difference is at each strike. So I can see, for example, this 81.5 call. We're down a couple of vol points from 36.88 to 34.02. You can see our key up in the top left corner there. I can also add our call and put implied vol, and this can be helpful when you zoom in and get a little more granular. You can see where the call and put implied volatilities are, and you have the ability to zoom in as much as you want, zoom out as much as you want, and see how our curve is fitting to the market. And I mentioned, so on the tails, and most option traders will be familiar, that the curve gets a little hard to manage way out in those zero delta calls, zero delta puts. That's not unusual, but everything anywhere close to at the money, you can see we're bang on in terms of our auto fit between the call and put implied vol. You can see our curve running through right there. You do have the ability, of course, to select other curves within the complex. So everything, once again, everything that came from my parent option chain is available here in the vol graph, and I can select any term that I like. This by term feature is going to be a term structure. It's not complete just yet, but that will be released soon. We will be able to view the term structure of your options over time. Let's talk a little bit about spread building. Spread building, we know, is extremely important to any option trader. We spent a lot of time customizing our spread building capabilities, and I'm going to show you two distinct ways to build your spreads. The first and sort of the more basic or the more fundamental way is to use strikes. So if I know, for example, that I want to build a 63-64 instrument, I can click on those on the 63 and the 64 strikes, the single left click. Up at the top here, once I click on the strikes, you can see every instrument that can be, every spread that can be created using those strikes. Call vertical, put vertical, strangle, risk reversal, etc. 1 by 2. Every listed spread that can be created with those two strikes is available to you. Now, most of these are displayed in gray. What that means is that that spread is not yet listed on the exchange. We will still provide the theoretical value here. So the 63-64 strangle, for example, has not been listed on the exchange, or has not been quoted on the exchange yet. It is not a listed spread, but we'll still give you that theoretical value. The put vertical, on the other hand, pvert, is highlighted in white. That means that this does exist on the exchange. So if I select my pvert, it will open up my spread builder, my floating spread builder, and we can see the legs that I've created. So I've got the 63-64 put spread in here. My abbreviation is listed above, each leg listed below, so you can see the market and the theo on each leg, as well as the market and the theo for the spread as a whole, and the Greeks that go along with that. Because this is listed and there is a bid and offer here, I can single click on either the bid or the offer to open up an order ticket and execute directly from there. In the case that we're looking at a spread that is not listed, for example, I called out the strangle. This would be an unusual strangle to trade. But just as an example, if I were to pull up the strangle, we will show you the Theos and Greeks on the legs, the Theos and Greeks for the spread. But what you'll see here is there is no bid ask because this is not yet listed at the exchange. Now, in my internal environment, I'm unable to send an RFQ to the exchange. When I click it, you'll see that the RFQ failed. However, when you are using this and you're connected directly to the exchange, clicking the RFQ will send a request for quote to the exchange. You will get a market back from any market participants, and that strategy is going to show at the top of our option strategies component. It will pop in there. This RFQ button is red because my RFQ failed, according to my notice here, as I said, because I cannot connect to the exchange from our internal environment. So that is expected. If an RFQ is successful, this button will turn white and you will see a returned market from the return bid and ask from the market, as well as size. You certainly are, you are not limited to 2 strikes, of course. If I add a 3rd strike here, now I've got a different selection of available spreads. Most notably with 3 strikes, probably a put butterfly is what I'm looking to trade here. So we have listed sort of in the order of most commonly used. We'll see the butterfly, ironfly, and then of course we get into the lesser traded spreads like Christmas tree, a 3-way, etc. But no matter how many strikes you select, we will allow you to build a spread from there. If I were to select another strike here, you'll see that this configuration does not fit any listed spreads. This would be a generic spread. Now, I could certainly pull that up and take a look at what if I have some sort of odd strategy like this where I want to trade in whatever configuration. Let's say I want to buy the butterfly. So I'm going to buy one buy 2 by 1 versus, let's say, 3 of those 68 half calls. Right, so I can create whatever custom spread I want here, and we will update it as a generic here. We will give you the Theos and Greeks for the spread, whether or not it's a supported spread type at the exchange. So spread building by strike can be useful in that sense if you want to look at the various packages that are available using your strikes. What most professional options traders will prefer is to build by theoretical value, and I'm going to show you how to do that. This is most useful when you know exactly the structure that you want to trade and in exactly the ratio that you want to trade it. So I'm going to build a put vertical that I know is listed on the exchange. I'm going to build the 65-68 put vertical. Now I can go around that entire process of identifying the spread type by clicking on the theoretical values. So I am going to left click on the 68 put theoretical value. That indicates a buy. And as soon as I do, you see that our floating spread builder is launched immediately. I'm going to right click on the 65 put, which will indicate a sell. So when I add those 2 legs, we can see I'm buying one, selling the other. We know right away, we can identify that this is a put vertical. And because this put vertical does exist on the exchange, we see right away the market on it. I can, from here, manipulate my spread further. If I want to add another leg, maybe I want to buy a 61 put against that. That's a single left click on the 61 put, and you'll see our ratio is added there. This is now a generic spread. But I can also very easily turn this put spread into a 1 by 2. So right now it's a 1 by 1 vertical. If I right click again on that 65 put, that's going to increase my quantity to 2. And this is now a put 1 by 2. We do recognize the spread type. This 1 by 2 is not listed on the exchange, so we don't see market on it yet, but this could be RFQ'd and traded in that fashion. All right, a couple more items from there. Now that I've got, let me go back to my regular put vertical one by one. And I'm going to show you a way that you can save and execute these spreads if you don't want to do it directly from the spread builder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Hotwatch to my workspace here. Hotwatch will allow you to, and I won't go into too much detail on Hotwatch, but Hotwatch will allow you to monitor any number of instruments as you see fit. The reason I want to bring this up is because now that I've created this spread and it does exist in the exchange, I can very easily grab and drag that to my Hotwatch and save it there. We'll see all the market stats on our Hotwatch there, high, low, etc., open interest. But this is a good way to save spreads. If you don't execute them right away, you can save them to your Hotwatch for future use. These will be retained session over session. So you can always pull that up and trade it directly from the Hotwatch. I can also, if you prefer to see these spreads in a ladder, if I grab this put vertical, if I grab this put vertical from my Hotwatch, I can drag it to create a ladder on this spread. So we can see there, and again, running out of real estate, but we can see the market on the put spread itself in the ladder format. I can enter orders directly into the ladder on this spread, just like I can with any other instrument, any equity or future. You will only see, however, the top of the book when it comes to option spreads for now. We've had requests to add depth of market for options and spreads, and that will be coming in a future release. So there are a number of different ways that you can execute spreads. You can view spreads, save spreads in that fashion. In the same way that I pulled that spread from the spread builder, I can do the same thing if I'm building by strike. So if I click on the 65 strike, of course, the call and the put are available, the straddle is available. I can very quickly, if I just want to keep an eye on the 65 call, pull that into my Hotwatch. The straddle is also listed. I can pull in that 65 straddle if I want to take a look at that and maintain it. The combo, on the other hand, does not yet exist at the exchange. This is not a spread that we can act on. I could, if I want, pull it up and RFQ it if I were connected to the exchange, but because it is not listed, you cannot drag this to the Hotwatch or to a ladder. It is not technically an instrument yet. In the option strategies component, you have a lot of capabilities in terms of filtering. You can see that there are 97 pages of option strategies in the crude oil complex, which is not a surprise, very heavily traded product. But if I want to simply filter, perhaps I want to just take a look at any straddles that are quoted on the day. So I can use my STRD filter. That'll give us straddles, also horizontal straddle, or you might notice the straddle swap is available in there as well. But these quick filters can be very useful if I want to, or strangle, or if I want to, for example, take a look at a particular strike. So if I'm particularly interested in the 66 strike, I can filter by that with our quick filter, and every spread that has the 66 strike as part of it will be listed. This is particularly powerful when you start adding tabs to your strategies. So for example, I might have one tab that has all straddles. I might create a second tab that would be, well, strangles is a good example, and I can filter based on those filters that we showed you here. There's a lot of capability in terms of monitoring the spread market from the option strategies component, monitoring the outright options market using the option chain and the Hotwatch. There's a whole lot of flexibility in terms of how you can configure your workspace. So what I've shown here is just an example, but again, if once you are up and running with the options platform, we're happy to sit with you and do a session and help you build your workspace. There are just an infinite number of ways that you can configure your workspace. I do want to quickly execute a spread. I'm going to bring back my portfolio and my trade book, because I do want to show an example of what spread fill looks like in your portfolio. So once again, I'm going to filter for my CL complex. And I'm going to go ahead and execute I'll execute this strangle here, this OCT, this is a wide strangle, this OCT 42 135 strangle, so we can get an idea of what that looks like in the portfolio. So again, single left click on the offer. I'm going to buy 10 of these for 6 cents. And we can take a look at what that looks like in our portfolio. Despite the fact that I've executed this as a spread, the portfolio is going to show you the legs. So I traded the 42 135 strangle 10 times. I'm now long 10 of each of those legs. The portfolio will not show you the spread as a single instrument. And the reason for that is because, especially with options, you're in and out of legs of spreads, you turn a vertical into a butterfly, et cetera. It gets, obviously incredibly difficult to track which options belong to which spread. Now, the best way to track a spread, if you do execute a trade on it, is, as I mentioned before, adding it to a hot watch. So once if there is a spread here that I have executed, I want to keep an eye on, I want to see what the changes over day, I can monitor the spread in that fashion from the hot watch, but that will not be the case in the portfolio. Manual trades is another feature that has been added recently. So I know there are a lot of option traders who will execute off screen with a broker, or perhaps execute through another platform and want to pull that position into Rival One and view their position in Rival One. So we have a manual trade feature, and I'll show you how that works. I'm going to go ahead and let's build a call spread this time. It doesn't matter whether it is listed on the exchange or not, but I am going to build a 6870 call spread. Left click on the 68 call, right click on the 70 call to build my call vertical. Now, that does exist. We got lucky. Now, if I want to enter this into a system, perhaps I've traded a couple hundred of these with a broker, and I need to view my risk on it. You can hit manual trade. And in this case, I traded 100 of these. You can specify the price on each leg. You don't have to necessarily, because it's a manual trade, we're not checking against prices. If I want to trade this at a price of, so what is this? This is 76 cents. I want to trade this at a price of 76. I can manipulate my prices to 217 and 141. We'll just show you the last traded price there. But if you just want a quick and easy way to put it in there, I can most certainly make this 76 and 0. P&L, of course, all comes out in the wash, but it is up to you as to how granular you want to get. I'm going to go ahead and submit this manual trade and take a look at our trade book and our portfolio. So in the portfolio, we can see that I traded 100 of these spreads, 6870 call spread. I was already long 20 of the 70 calls, so my net position is short 80. We can see that right away in the portfolio. In addition, in the trade book, we do see that I traded 100 of these verticals. It is a manual trade. I will have the ability to edit or delete it. If I add my manual column here, let me get this out of the way, a manual trade column. I now have the ability to delete that trade. Editing is coming, but I can delete my manual trade. Yes, I'm sure, cannot be undone, I understand. That trade will remain in your trade book for reference, but it will be struck out. So now that I've deleted that manual trade, we can take a look back in our portfolio. We see that the 68 and 70 calls that 100 lot has been removed, and I'm left with my 20 lot of 70 calls that I traded earlier. Manual trades are subject to compliance checks. So you cannot enter a manual trade that would exceed your assigned limits from your risk manager. For that reason, manual trade capabilities can only be enabled by your risk manager. So by default, you will not see that manual trade capability. If you speak to your risk manager and ask them to enable you for manual trades, that is the way to get that done. I want to go now with the last few minutes we have here into a brief description of a couple of our option-specific algos. So the most common, and I hesitate to even call auto hedge an algo. I think a lot of people here are familiar with what an auto hedge order is. Let me add my order book in here so we can take a look at what this looks like in auto hedge fashion. Auto hedge will trade the appropriate number of futures to get you delta neutral on your trade based on our calculated delta. So in this case, if I want to buy 50 of these 63 puts, my delta is approximately 30. If I enable auto hedge and I submit this order to buy 50, and I want to make sure I get a fill, so I'm going to go ahead and take this up. I'm working to buy 50, $1.64. Once again, we have a slight delay with our internal matching engine, but once we do get filled on this 50 lot, we're going to see that we are going to buy the puts, and auto hedge will automatically buy the underlying future against it to get you delta neutral. So here I bought 50 puts with a 30 delta, that would be 15 futures. So we see that I did execute 12, 13, 14, 15, total of 15 futures on that order. As it stands right now, the auto hedge feature is a limit order that goes in at the top of the book. There's a project in the works right now to allow users to apply an algorithm to their auto hedge order so that you can work your auto hedge. In the last session, I talked a little bit about our standard algos, but for example, you might want to work your auto hedge with a tick, or as we call it, take diminishing size. So that capability will be coming. As it is right now, once again, we are just putting in a limit order at the top of the book that will hedge your trade and get you delta neutral. In addition to trade by price, I'm going to take a look here at another feature, trade by vol. So by volatility. So in my order ticket, I'm looking now at this 69 put. Actually, I'm going to choose a higher delta instrument for this demonstration, so you can see effectively what goes on when you put in a volatility order. So I'm going to look at these 60 calls. And if I want to trade these in volatility terms rather than in price terms, you have that capability. Now, because the volatility is dependent on the price versus the future, you'll see that when I put this order in, we'll see it working in the order book, the order is going to adjust based on the move in the underlying to maintain that volatility level. So the current vol level is 39.7. Let's buy a 10 lot of these and let's trade it at a 38.5 vol. So we can see it working. I'm going to submit a 10 lot as a vol order. We can see in our order book that this is working at a price of 731. So I didn't specify that 731 price, but the volatility level that corresponds to my 38.5 vol is 731. Now you can see that this order is adjusting. It's moving, and that's because the underlying is moving. So we see that my algo attached here is a volatility algo. If I were to take that call and stick it in the ladder, you get an even better example of how we are working this order in an automated fashion. So we can see here that that 730 bid is working, and as since it's a call, as the underlying breaks, that order was adjusted to 729. That is the algo working that price for us. As the underlying, I was hoping, there we go, a little bit of movement there in the underlying. I was hoping crude futures would be moving a little bit more for this demonstration, but you can see that that order is repriced to maintain that volatility level, depending on where the underlying market moves. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that order from my order book. And there are a couple more algos that I want to talk about briefly, specifically pertaining to options. Now, all of our algos that are designed for futures can be used for options. OCO orders, bracket orders, take diminishing size, stop orders, these all can be used on options. But there are a couple of algos that are very specific to options. So I talked about auto hedge, I talked about volatility order. Minimum edge order is another. In a minimum edge order, I can specify the edge that I need to capture for this trade to keep working this trade. And what will happen is if my price has not met the minimum edge criteria, the order will be canceled. So this is a way, it's sort of like a pseudo electronic eye. It's a way to keep orders working and give yourself some protection to make sure that you have edge in your order. Another option algo that has been very popular is a contingent order. So I can trade this. Option contingent on a specific future price. Some people like to think of this as auto hedge in reverse. In this case, I would be looking for a future price, the underlying future price of 66.43. When that price is met, the contingent algo will go and grab the option at my price. So it's effectively you're hedging your future with an option rather than hedging an option with a future. This is most often used in more illiquid markets where getting the hedge on an auto hedge is not guaranteed. If you've got a thin market, if you've got a choppy market, this is the algo that you would probably want to use. I talked earlier. I do want to show one more example with our vertical price sheet. As I said, it can be a little difficult with the scrolling and the expanding and collapsing of terms. So what a lot of our users have done is they have created a horizontal option sheet from the vertical one, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I want to create a horizontal option chain, what I've done here is I've selected the front 3 months of my LO options. So I've got OCC, NOV, and DEES options in my 3 option chains here. I've got my ball graph for each below. But what is really helpful here is our floating spread builder allows you to build spreads across expirations or across terms. So particularly with calendars, this can be really helpful. So I'm going to create a calendar spread that I know is listed on the exchange. Let's trade an OCC 65 put calendar. So I'm going to left click on the NOV 65 put to buy. I'm going to right click on the OCC 65 put to sell. But that floating spread builder will take in information from any option chain within this window. So that is an easy way to build a calendar if you need to, or view your options in a horizontal format. The last thing I want to demonstrate should be familiar to most option traders, but is not always available in all option systems, and that is trading covered option spreads. So we saw earlier how I can pull up an individual option or a spread by clicking on the theoretical value. In this case, let's start out with one single option, one single put. So I single left click on the put, I've got my 62.5 put. If I want to trade this as a covered option, I can hit this lock button here. This is locking the spread, covering the spread, tying up the spread, laid up, whatever various terms you guys are used to. But what will happen there is it'll add automatically my future leg. And actually, I'm going to find a covered call that exists so we can actually execute this thing. Let's grab this. This May covered put vertical. Actually, hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. Once again, I can filter in here for covered spreads in my option strategies. I'm just looking for one that's going to be easy to trade. So I see, for example, this covered put right here, Feb 60 put. So I'm going to open that up, create it, and trade it. Feb 60 put. Oops. I'm going to build that. I'm going to cover it, and simply to match what's in the market, I'm going to specify the same details that are in the market. So this is tied to 65.30 with a 31 delta. So I can adjust this to 65.30 with a 31 delta. Oops, negative delta. And I can either RFQ that spread, or I can execute it straight from here, from the option strategies component. But to give you an idea of what that looks like when we do execute a covered spread, let's buy 3 of these. We can see that the spread was actually executed as a package. These are not legged at the exchange. I've now executed 3 lot of the Feb 60 puts tied up. So let's take a look at our portfolio and see what that looks like in our Feb bucket, which goes into the March future. But we can see that I traded that 60 put 3 times. There were not enough, not enough delta in there to get a hedge. Let me trade a larger size here. If I trade 50 of these, we can see that is adjusted there in our portfolio. So you can create covered spreads. You can specify the delta on your covered spreads. You can specify the price at which you want to tie it. All of that can be manipulated by the user. You are not bound to, of course, what's in the market, but you can create delta neutral spreads on your own and trade them that way. This brings us to the end of this presentation. As I said, there is far more detail that we can go into, especially on the option algos or on spread building, and I would love to do that with anybody who is on this call or who may have missed this call. I'm looking to see if there are any questions posted at the moment. I don't see any, unless, Kate, there are any that may not have yet been assigned to me. And that's perfectly fine. If you do have questions, please feel free to post them here. We are going to end this call in just a minute or two. And if there are questions that come up after this call, once again, please reach out to me directly at any time. Please reach out to our sales team directly at any time. We would love to speak further with you about your trading needs and how Rival can help you meet those. Thank you very much for attending, everybody. Please do follow up with us, and we will notify you when this recording is available online so that you can watch it back if needed. Thank you all very much for attending. Have a great afternoon.